more beautiful in person. Absolutely stunning.
I had my hair done in braids because I could not be bothered to deal with the humidity.
Oh, no, girl.
I mean, curly girls, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah, so now you can live here. You get it. You understand what it's like to be a woman in Houston. So we have to start, y'all. Can we just have a moment of silence? Right? Y'all watched, right? I'm not spoiling anything. Y'all watched.
I mean, if you haven't watched it by now, like, why are you here?
Right. Tell
It's been like a week. Come on.
So I loved what you did on social. I mean, like, if it doesn't happen, you don't post on Instagram, it never existed, right? But you did such a wonderful tribute to your character on social media. It was so great. Was that tear-jerking for you to write? Yes.
No. Oh my God, I was, like in my pajamas somewhere, like having a little cry. No, it really felt like appropriate to, pay tribute to Missandei and to the show and to my cast and crew and just everything. It's just been the end of such an amazing portion of my life. I feel like I've just grown up properly. I mean, I started that show, I was 23, I think. And then, you turn 30 and you look back and you're sort of like, oh wow, that was special. That was an amazing experience, and I wanted to kind of, put it out there how much it meant to me.
Well, and truly, it is a role that you just finished. It's not only career-changing, but as you're alluding to, it's life-changing. What did you learn from your character? What did you channel?
Ooh, how long do we have? No. Well, first of all, she's just incredibly loyal, and I really kind of value that in people, and reciprocity. Somebody who you give them your energy and your love, and it's reciprocated. So, and I think Missandei embodied that throughout the whole show, whether it was with Grey Worm or with Daenerys, and she's taught me a lot about that, and also just being really kind and meeting people where they're at and supporting people, and
It takes a lot of energy to be mean, right, as we see in some of the characters out there, but it does. It doesn't take a lot. Wow, I don't know, but it does.
Drama.
It's not that hard to be nice, and I think that's what's really important. Is not only is your character being the trusted advisor, but sort of the BFF of that world, right? I mean, the two of you are besties.
Yeah, and also absolutely. I mean, it's so rare when you see. I mean, I think it's changing now because there's just been this real drive for female leads and female characters. But it's really I think when I came onto the show, seeing women sort of holding each other up and supporting each other and respecting each other as the brilliant, smart women they are, is kind of rare. Usually it's we're pitted against one another.
Right.
And actually, we were just oh, you're cool. And she's yeah, you're cool too. Let's be friends. It's amazing.
It worked. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. You came on Game of Thrones season 3.
I did.
What was life like for you prior to season 3? Take us back. What were you doing?
I was working in retail.
Working retail? Yeah, in London.
I mean, listen, I had a mortgage, girls gotta pay their bills.
Right, absolutely. But that was your dream. You wanted the big role. You wanted something to break in, right?
I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones before I was even on it, and I kept kind of phoning my agent. I was very out of work at this time. And I kept phoning my agent being there's this show, and she had never heard of it. She thought I was it's got dragons, and she's this sounds ridiculous. And then I sort of said if there's ever anything that I'm right for, I want to go in for it. And truth be told, there's not many people that look like me on Game of Thrones, and so I was I know that's unlikely. And then I saw a breakdown that said 18 to 25 non-white actress. I was that's me. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I felt like she was mine from the second I saw that.
Well, clearly. Yeah. What was the read like for you to go in there?
to be honest, it was quite terrifying because, like, when you love a show and then you audition for it, you're like, the pressure's just even more. And I really studied, did my homework, and also they said, oh no, we just want your natural accent. And I was like, cool. But like, because I'm a nerd and I started reading the books, and I was like, she's from somewhere else. Like, she might have an accent. She might have something. So I just like prepared the same scene in a slight accent. I don't even know what the accent was. It just sounded like I was speaking English with an accent. And so I phoned my agent and I was like, are you sure they don't want an accent? And she said, no, they absolutely said natural accent is fine. And I was like, okay, cool. And I get into the audition and they asked me to do a bloody accent. And I was prepared. I was like,
it's fine.
And I was like, okay, girl, this is your moment. And so I just did it, and then I left, and I just put it out of my head because I thought, don't obsess about this because you'll drive yourself crazy. And I went back to my life and to my job, and I just got on with it. And for 5 weeks, I didn't hear anything. I just assumed
5 weeks?
5 weeks, yeah.
The longest 5 weeks ever.
But to be honest with you, when you're auditioning, like, if you don't hear anything within like a few days even, just to say, oh, you've got a call back, or
right,
like, you've not got it, or if you don't hear anything, you just assume it's gone away, which happens all the time. And so I just thought it'd gone away. And then I got a phone call. I was coming home from doing shopping, and I had like all my groceries like holding about 7 bags. And then my agent phones, and I'm like, hi. She's like, you got it? And I was like, I'd been up for like a commercial or something. I was like, oh cool, like just completely not realizing she's talking about Game of Thrones. And she was like, no, you got Game of Thrones. And I like just dropped everything. I like cried.
Oh my gosh.
I broke a jam jar. I was like, oh god, and
nobody needs jam anymore when you're on Game of Thrones.
Who cares about jam? We don't do that. So yeah, and it was like the best feeling ever, because like it's hard when you love acting and you love being a creative person, and you're not getting to do that. It really can hit your self-esteem really hard. So the fact that I'd been successful at an audition was, first of all, like, amazing.
And I think that's really important too to understand, is that as an actress, I mean, it's very subjective. Like you said, when you looked at what the bullet points were for who this character was, well, I may or may not fit, but this looks like it's going to fit. It's very subjective.
Yeah. And they saw so many people.
Yeah.
They don't mess about when it comes to casting. Me and Nicole casting are just like incredible. They really do, like, they don't just cast anybody. So the fact that they were like, we want you, I was like that's amazing.
Right? I mean, it's so, and it all obviously is career changing for you.
Absolutely.
What's next, Natalie? What is next, girl?
Wow, lots of things, hopefully. But I just wrapped on 4 Weddings and a Funeral for Hulu. So that's July 31st on Hulu. So that's completely different from Game of Thrones. It's like a rom-com. It's really fun. It's a comedy. So no one gets decapitated in this show.
No one.
I was like, okay guys, that's my one stipulation. Do I keep my head? No, I'm joking. It's just been lovely. It's written by Mindy Kaling, who's Queen.
She is, yes.
Yeah, and it's an amazing show to be a part of. It's such a lovely cast, and then also another Fast and Furious, I think, is coming.
Yes.
So
very cool. So we were watching, and the crowd was watching a lot of these like outtakes and bloopers before you came on, and
I was very distracted. I kind of saw bits of it as I was.
It was so cool. How do you keep? I mean, talk to us about that, because we're watching, we're fanning, we forget about the outtakes, and that you actually forget lines or something funny happens. I mean, what is that like to work with that group of people?
It's so hard. Like, I have to kind of declare that I am not good. If people are laughing, I will laugh. Like, there is no, like, I'm not this, like, actor that's like, I'm just in it, I'm serious, I'm like, if you start laughing, I'm gonna laugh. Like, I'm not that strong, and that's just who I am, I'm sorry. And so, like, when you're working with the likes of Conleth Hill and Peter Dinklage, it's impossible, it's hard. And I would be like, guys, come on now, like, because then it looks like I'm misbehaving. And I'm not. I'm like just laughing at you because you're funny. I'm sorry.
It's so cool to see those outtakes.
Yeah, we have so much fun together. And Jacob and I, like, we have to play such kind of like serious, stoic characters, and we're not really like that in real life. And so if it gets silly, I can't look at him. Like, we just can't look at each other.
Right. No
and
eye contact.
And we have like these moments, I'm like, Jacob, stop it. Like, look over there. Like, I can't. And so that's what we'd have to do. Otherwise, we can't get through it.
I think it's so cool to get sort of that inside look of, you know, what it takes to put it all together, for sure. And what's so neat is that you and Emilia Clarke, of course, yeah, you guys are very tight, right? You're tight in real life?
I know she can probably see this, but I love her so much. Yes, I love her so much. She's so sweet, and we have such a giggle together. And yeah.
What I think is great too, and you kind of alluded to this already with the female, the strong role, and having another female that is strong in your in the characters together, but to actually like them.
Yeah,
that's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I came onto the show, we were in Morocco, and Emilia was like the one female character in that kind of part of the world, but in that part of the realm. Where were we? Africa or something? Yeah, something like that. Somewhere hot and dry. And so I came in, and she was just like, "Hi, you're my friend now," and I was like, not expecting that, because we didn't know each other. She didn't have to be so like open and warm to me. Like,
right.
She is just that as a person, but like, you know, sometimes it takes a minute to warm up to people, and she was straight away was just like, "No, you're my friend now." So I was like, okay.
Took you right under the wing.
Yeah, and it was lovely. And the truth of it is, we were the only two girls in a very male-dominated part of the storyline. And I mean, yes, she's like the central character of that, but just being two girls on set where it's mostly dudes, like, it bonds you a certain way. Like, you know, you have to, you know,
hug it out.
Like, hug it out.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so y'all haven't really seen each other since the premiere, and we've got her bestie backstage. Y'all, Houston, welcome for Emilia Clarke.
I know, yeah.
It really is crazy. And there's an
more
overload.
all the way around.
More than it sounds back there. So hi.
So this is so neat, and I love that you guys are true friends.
Yeah.
You haven't seen each other other than a few moments backstage.
No, I know, yeah. We just sort of grab at each other backstage.
What is that like for you to have not only the trusted advisor, the character, but also somebody that's a trusted friend in your life after this amazing Game of Thrones season?
No, I know, it's amazing. It's brilliant, because as Nat was saying, it really is. There's a lot of boys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boys for a long time. And then Nat came along and I was like, yes! Okay, good. So yeah, it's really, you know, there's a lot of time on set, there's a lot of time waiting around for stuff, or waiting for a storm to pass, or whatever it is. And so you want to be able to have someone that you can be real with, and, you know, and giggle with, and have a good time with.
Yeah, at work, right? I mean, let's be honest, it's work.
Yes. I mean, it's not hard. Yeah. It's a joyful job.
So we already, I know there's certain things I can't ask either one of you, but we already talked about the tribute to your bestie on social media and the character. I mean, other than that heavy sigh that you just gave us, can you give us a reaction?
Wait, it killed me. Because I was watching the episode, and because we all, I'm sure you guys know this, but like the cast don't see it until it comes on live on TV when everyone else watches it. So you sort of forget what's in the episode, and especially as you're like, oh no, this is one of the long episodes, right? Okay. So I was watching it, and I had this screening, and there was a bit. It was on a beautiful big screen and all that lovely stuff. And I was like, oh, the credits will roll in a minute, and then was like, oh my god, it's that one. And then suddenly it was just like, everyone's like, you're right. I'm like, what? You guys don't know what's about to happen, and I do. And it completely floored me and killed me all over again. It was hard enough doing it, and that was your last day. Yeah. It was your actual last day, and it's so funny because Conleth, he's always bringing the giggles, always. And me and Jacob were just broken.
Yeah.
Like Nat left, and we were like, we can't do this. And he was trying so hard to make us happy and make us giggle, and we were a bit just like,
Wasn't he doing like silly voices or something?
No, he was. He was like not even like the glint of a smile. We just couldn't do. It was too sad. Yeah.
I know, we're sad, but you know what? We're so glad that both of you are here in Houston to And can we talk for a minute? I want both of you to give your input on this one. We talk a minute about High Valyrian, the language, right? Because who knows when you make a mistake? I mean, I think there's probably somebody out there that does, but really?
David J. Peterson.
Yes.
He knows how to say it.
He knows exactly how to
He
say
knows
it.
all the words.
Yeah.
It's like tomato, you said that wrong.
Yeah. Oh no.
How difficult is it to learn a language that's a language but not a language?
It's
hard.
It's really difficult because they don't. It's not like learning French or German or like a language that people speak.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you're saying. So it was only in season 8 that we got. So what we'd normally have is we would have the High Valyrian, Dothraki, Low Valyrian, whatever it is that you're learning, and then the English. And so then you'd have your MP3 and you'd listen to it and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it and then kind of learn it. And then in season 8, he was like, oh no, now I'm going to do a direct translation. Because I don't know about you, but I would sort of guess. Like, I think that word
You start to
means
pick up words,
people. Or,
like,
yeah.
you know, like, Dovogedis is
Yes, exactly.
or like, Zaldrize is dragon, like, you start to pick it
Yeah,
up.
right.
I'm like, that one, yeah.
Do you ever explore like the airport or something? Do you just try to like
Do you know what? I know where to lie. Like early on, like before, like early on, I was in a bar once and this guy would not leave me alone. He wouldn't leave me alone, and I was like, oh no, thank you. And then he didn't take my. So I started speaking. I just started making it up, and he was like, so, and I was like, no English, sorry. And then he walked out.
That's amazing.
I just pretended I couldn't speak English, but I don't speak any other languages. So I was like, Valyrian, go. Happened like one time, like many years ago.
That is awesome. Okay, so the other thing that I think is really cool, and I love, you know, both of you are very expressive in real life. Your facial expressions, but your characters.
Eyebrows.
I know the eyebrows, girl. We gotta talk about the eyebrows. But how do you not move them?
Oh yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Do they tape them or something, or is there
No,
something happening?
sometimes they should do, but that it's literal. I don't know about you, but most of those, and then they're like, and now we're going to do the pushing, and I'm like, just don't move, just don't, yeah. And
Emilia has this amazing ability to like focus her eyes, like in a way that I've actually never seen. It's like a skill.
well, my contact lenses sometimes pop out.
Do they dry out?
Yeah, if I'm doing like a really mean, serious stare, and it's like I'm just gonna, it's just involving a lot of control, and I don't blink at all. The amount of times the cameras come right there and then just boop. And yeah, they're like, ruined it, let's try that again. And then I'll like take them out to do it blind.
But it's
which is even more
impressive.
fun.
It's more impressive because you wear contact lenses. I wear contact lenses and I blink all the time because they're in my eye. And you manage to not stare for like 10 seconds.
It's just
They
fear.
dry out.
It's just pure unadulterated fear. I'm like, there's a camera, there's loads of people, this is really important. If I don't move anything, then no one will know that.
It's just so crazy to me though. And you can do your eyebrows left and right, move them up and down, both of them.
I can do one. Teach me your ways. Go.
I didn't know. I didn't know that my eyebrows were as expressive as they are until I was like 13. Someone took a picture of me like back in the before you.
A real camera where you actually develop the film.
Tell me about it. And I was like, 6 months later when we got the film back, I was like, oh my god. And what's my face doing? And everyone was like, what do you mean? And I was like, what's my face doing? Because I was in mid-conversation, I was kind of in the corner frame. And they're like, no, that's what your face does. Because obviously when you're looking in the mirror, you don't, you know, realise you're not really having a chat in the mirror. You don't really see it happening. And it was a shock. And so yeah.
Well, I feel like you've embraced it. It's a hidden talent. It's so amazing.
Thanks.
It could be like Britain's Got Talent. Maybe you can go on that show.
There we go.
If Game of Thrones, you know.
Plan B.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we talked to Nathalie about what life was like. I mean, clearly, as we already said, this Game of Thrones, career changing for both of you. And
Starting for me. Yeah.
right? Yeah. And I mean, where were you when you got the call, when you figured out this was happening for you?
Well, when I got the call for the audition, I was standing on top of a loo at my workplace so that they couldn't see if they looked underneath it. Because that was like when I was doing lots of jobs to pay rent, and one of them was working at this museum where I could just stand around. That's literally all I did. And so every time my agent would call, which was once every 6 months, I would run into them. They were kind of. So yeah, I was incredibly unemployed when I got going right.
Me too, sister. Me too.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, looking back at that moment and where it is today, what have you learned? Have you changed at all, do you think, as a person?
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I think you can only change so much. I think the who I am is the same, but now my entire world is different.
Right.
Yeah. Everything's changed, and I think it's an extraordinary thing. And I don't know whether it's just because it's been, essentially a decade of life that's been lived. So a huge amount of real life things have happened in that time to kind of change me. But I just feel like I have found a voice that I didn't really even know was possible 10 years ago to be able to have, and that's been the most remarkable part of this journey. It's been that.
Absolutely. And especially on this Mother's Day weekend, I feel, it's important to recognize the female characters and the strength, Mother of Dragons, of course.
It's so funny the amount of Mother's Day stuff I get, and I'm like, I so don't have a child.
You have
a dog child?
Yeah, I do have a dog child.
a dog child.
It's not.
What kind of dog do you have?
A wire-haired fox terrier.
Aww.
She's just the best dog in the world.
The best dog in the world.
She is.
I love it. Okay, let's talk costumes. Do you guys have a favorite that you love to wear? Even the jewelry. The jewelry is so amazing.
You've got some jewelry.
I know, yeah. Do you remember when Michelle was just like, you're all getting jewelry? And we were like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a ring.
Yeah.
I've got a necklace. That's great.
And it all had its own backstory.
I know.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I had one ring that was like from season 1 that I decided was my mother's. It's her mother's.
Yes. And does it take long to do the costuming and the
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. It's that like, do you need the loo, babe? Because I'm going to take half an hour.
Oh, do you need the loo? Because I need the loo because I've been sewn in to this.
Literally.
Can we just, I need to pee. So
Yeah.
there's no getting out of it.
and then you have to be sewn back in. So.
Michelle Clapton, who is like an absolute genius, and as I say, I know I'll never look as good ever again on TV because she dressed us so beautifully, but she didn't believe in zips, which is a problem when you're doing like sometimes like an 18-hour shooting day essentially, and you're like, I'm gonna have to get cut out every time I have to pee, and my bladder is the size of a hamster's. So.
And of all of the people on the set, it's the cast that aren't really allowed to not be there because they need to point cameras at us and fight and what have you. So for us to like leave set is like a thing.
Right.
So but
you shut down the whole production.
yeah, they're like, well, we have to wait.
Yeah. Or like lunch, they're like, could you hold on till 6? Just because we really need to keep going.
You're like, no.
Yeah, because you can't eat in corsets.
Oh no, you
I mean,
cannot.
I wasn't as
bust out of
corseted
it.
as you, to be fair.
Oh my god,
But some of those armours were really like intense.
Yeah. Season 8, she just went like next level with the corsets.
That's exhausting
Felt like
just
a
thinking
Kardashian,
about it, you know? Okay, so we have some social media questions for you guys, and I have one here from Nick Morris, and his question's for you, Emilia. Would you be open to or ever consider reprising your role as Daenerys if the opportunity presented itself? Either way, why do you feel that way? So a prequel or something? Or...
Well, Nick, thank you for the question. 10 years is a significant chunk of life to live with one character, and I feel unbelievably lucky to have had the full range of everything that I've been able to explore as an actor through her eyes and walking in her shoes. And I really feel like that beginning, middle, and then when the season is finally done, that's a lot. So that's probably a no, because I think that
time to put,
I also think that David and Dan are the geniuses of this world, and
If they ain't doing it, then
Right. Then you're going to follow. Okay.
you know
absolutely.
what I mean. They're my people.
And then we have one from Elise Salinas, and she said, on screen, Missandei and Danny have a great friendship, which we already talked about a little bit, and loyalty. Was there that instant connection in tow that made it come across very sincere and believable on screen?
Well, I was thinking, do you remember when you remember the first one, and then we had a little bit of a situation?
Yeah.
Do you remember? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
It was, I did not enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking. Okay.
Oh no. Do you know what I mean? You remember in the Sorry, no one. Sorry, that made no sense. It's chill. I got very protective, quite immediately.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Yeah. So we were in Morocco filming, and my costume was somewhat revealing. Just a little bit, kind of blunt line, you know. And you know, there was a certain response to that,
And I did not take kindly to that response.
Yes.
So yeah, we bonded pretty.
So there was a very quick,
it was
like, hey, no,
yeah,
protected thing over
yeah,
each other.
Exactly.
So
exactly, and it felt very. It suddenly. I mean, I was so grateful to have Nat join us and forever, and I think that just like very quickly it was like, oh, we're in it. These are long days.
Yeah.
We're getting into it. There's a lot of people here, and I think we just
we straight away I felt very like, oh, someone's got my back.
Right. You had that moment of like, you say something to her, I'm gonna, women should have their backs, and those comments shouldn't be made.
Yes.
Right? Absolutely. What about the female roles and how that has evolved? Because that's one of the questions that Brandon Pena, we talked about that. Obviously very male-dominated when both of you came in, and the way you were treated in the beginning, the way you were treated, and so it had to come across. It was part of the storyline. It had to. Was that difficult for either one of you to put yourself in the slave role, or being sold off? Just in that, you have to be in character. So what does it take to get to the depth of that moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, for me anyway, it was the first proper job that I'd had, so I was petrified anyway. So I think inhabiting the part of Daenerys that was vulnerable and scared and without any voice at all, and without any kind of power to speak her truth, as someone who was very, fresh out of drama school and was 6 months earlier standing on a loo seat in a job she didn't want to be in, going, oh my god, it was very easy to inhabit that particular space. But then I was very lucky that within the arc of season 1, by the end, she found a strength that I felt I had too, because I'd had 10 episodes of filming kind of under my belt before we got to that bit. So yeah, it was definitely, the sensible actor response is like, oh yeah, it's just where my head, where I knew my head needed to be, which I absolutely was. I read the first book like 4 times and was really in her mind and in George R. R. Martin's head with regards to kind of what the material was for the first book. But most of it was my own fear, I think. So it was quite easy to inhabit that.
Channel the inner fear.
Yes, yes.
Well, obviously, those of you that have read the books know that Missandei's 9 years old in the books. She's not a grown woman, so straight away that kind of changes how you play her. And but the one thing that I took from the books, and the one thing that I did in preparation for this role, was just think about what somebody who has been enslaved and who is surviving, because to someone else they're property, they're disposable, they're nothing, and what that would take. And so for me, a lot of the choices I made for her were her being very still, very almost like a walking encyclopedia. I get asked a question, I speak when I'm spoken to. That submissive, brainwashing, years of it, what that might do to a person. And I had to really think about that. And, you know, so that's sort of where I started. And then I had the like absolute joy of figuring out what freedom meant for her, what having an opinion meant for her, what having a friend meant for her, what having a love meant for her. Like I had to figure out all these things and like how that might play in her performance and in her journey. And like suddenly this person that's been wound so tight, that's been oppressed in the most horrific of ways, how they start to release some of those binds. And it was just like, every sort of season they would give me this little nugget of something and I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do something with that. And that was a moment where we see her smile or see her laugh or see her like her opinions, even if they were small. Right. You know, they came subtly, and that was something that I felt was important because a lifetime of slavery, she survived slavery. Like that's not gonna just happen overnight. It's gonna take some time. And so that was my kind of where my thoughts were mostly existing.
It's so perfect and powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's what binds them early on, is because Daenerys has had a similar experience in that she was being sold and was kind of spent her life being groomed to be sold. There's that likeness that you see.
Like they've had very different experiences, you know. Like the people of North are very passive, they don't like harm things, so they're just like easy targets for slavers, you know. And like obviously Daenerys has come from royalty and this historic family of power that's been kind of overthrown and blah blah blah. So like they've had very different life things, but there is this kind of space somewhere of their two worlds where they both know what it feels to be
similar
property,
right?
You know, and to be nothing but a pawn in someone else's powerful game or something. So and also they're both brilliant women, despite it all.
True that.
Right.
You know?
Yes. Okay, so do either of you have a favorite character? I mean, obviously without your characters, but is there somebody that's another character in the show that you're just super excited about or connected to? Yeah, Jon Snow.
Literally connected to Jon Snow.
I use that word, just in case.
I'm really into Arya. I just think she's such a Maisie. She's just what a cool character, right? And the story arc of that character is like it's the part of dreams, to be honest. Like she gets to sword fight. She's been this little adorable child that we saw like 10 years ago, and now she's come into her womanhood, and I'm like, it's everything. I love her. That's who I am.
Do you have a favorite one?
It's so hard because as soon as you say favourite character, I just also think of the people. So my first thought is always Conleth. I'm always just like, I love Conleth. I love Varys. I think he's absolutely magnificent. But
how do you pick one, right?
How do you pick one? And then watching the season, then everyone just flourishes in a way that when you're acting with people, obviously you see so much, but then you're like, oh, that's what you were doing, and then so it sort of sings even more. But
quite honestly, when you're doing your scenes too, I mean, you're so isolated from the actual story being pieced together.
No, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So we get to experience genuinely from a fan perspective. If it's not our stuff because we're a million miles away, then we get to kind of enjoy the storylines that have been going on there. But in the same way that Macy's badass, Sansa, Sophie Turner is just this season, she just kills it. She just absolutely, just slowly but surely, you're like, oh no, you are a rock. You are not. Nothing's getting past this girl.
Right.
And she is just the power that she's brought for this season. I think has been
not a little bird anymore.
No. Yeah.
I know. Okay, so. The candles and the scenes and everybody's, the candles are lit.
The candles inside.
They are real, right?
Days, and everyone gets black up their nose. Yeah.
Because you're breathing in fumes.
Genuinely, you get the you'll see, if you really zoom in, you see a lot of people with ash up their nose.
No,
yeah, because you're inhaling all of it. Because
Yeah.
it's literal razors in a small confined space.
set.
And then you've got to tip the chandeliers every once in a while because you start to feel wax on your head and you're like, oh,
The wax.
we've been here too long.
What about the wine or the drinks that we have? What's in there?
Peter
Hibiscus
really has
tea.
had hibiscus tea. Because in the beginning they had cranberry juice, and Peter was like, I'm buzzing. Stop giving me cranberry juice, it's too sweet. So they started doing this watered down hibiscus tea.
And those cups, they seem so heavy. Are they heavy?
Yeah, they're pretty authentic. A lot of the props are.
Yeah.
Other than the
props.
Brian props. Shout out, Brian. But yeah, a lot other than the weapons, obviously, when people are using them, they can't be as heavy as a real sword is, because that would be dangerous. But sometimes they have real ones.
Ian always loves a real.
He does love a real
He's
sword.
like, darling, give me the heavy sword.
But a lot of the props are pretty authentic. They're kind of forged out of one piece of metal, and you're like, oh, great.
It's very. It's not. You're not picking up a styrofoam.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
they make
anything
it.
that's painted.
They make it very easy for you to step into Game of Thrones world. Obviously, once you've gone through hair and makeup and all of that, and you're in your regal attire, you then step onto this set that's very beautifully dressed, and there are things that look like they were made in the way that they were.
It's really fantastic.
It's
It really
incredible.
is. Okay, so let's take it back to real world. And last night was a first for you, Emilia.
Yes, it was.
Sadly, our
Could you
Rockets
tell?
didn't make it, but you were at the Rockets game last
It
night.
was so close.
But this was your very first NBA game ever?
It's my very first game.
Ever.
People keep being like, it's your first NBA game, or it's my first basketball game. I've never been.
How cool!
Right, it's that same thing, which is.
And you were kind of fangirling, I guess, a little bit yesterday, right?
Oh my god. The Queen was in the building. Do you know what I mean?
No, I was hurt. I was hurt in my heart when I saw that she was there, and I was
Queen
there.
Bee, Beyonce.
Because,
You're
I'm
a huge fan.
No, I'm a huge fan, and then I've managed it, because now I've watched Homecoming 3 times, and every time I watch it, it genuinely gives me inspiration, and she's been on every single Danny playlist, Daenerys Mother Dragons playlist, that I've ever had.
She has.
Who run the world?
But we used to do this.
So did.
Oh,
We
well,
have-
you gotta show us.
No, there's no
No?
dancing.
Okay.
No, yeah.
No. We used to be in this scene.
Yeah.
This Beyonce song is the theme of this song.
100%.
We
You
did
run the
that.
world.
You did.
And then the other one was Diva. Remember?
Yes.
Yes. A diva is a female version of a hustler.
She did that a lot.
That is so cool. Okay, so did you pump up music? What's on the playlist? I mean, we already talked about one Danny playlist, so what else is on it?
Oh my goodness, it sort of changed. This season was a little different. I took a little
Dark,
turn
a
with
little dark.
Yeah, a little dark, a little sad.
Yeah.
A little dark. Yeah, I'm now, I can't even.
Can't think, I know.
Oh no, but there's when I did the walking through the fire for the last, I completely forgot my episode that was in. I had a very hardcore playlist for that.
Do you remember which ones were on there, on that playlist, or no?
It's a lot of Beyonce, it's a lot of, oh my god.
Survivor had to
Yes,
be on
Survivor,
there.
definitely.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to
No, 100%. And then a lot of Stormzy, and then just maybe a Rage Against the
Because
Machine.
everybody
just to
needs,
throw it in there.
you need music to get yourself pumped up.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Emilia Clarke is amazing at rapping. No, but she does this thing, and it's the funniest thing ever, where she raps but as the Queen of England.
Oh,
And
I
raps.
gotta
And
do
it's
that.
amazing. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
But it's
The one that I'm thinking of is so rude. Sometimes when we do a really big wide shot, and they're not listening to your microphone, or if they are, they're giggling because you can't see what you do all the actions of very serious, but actually you're doing a ludicrous.
I love it.
And Jacob's standing next to me being you're making me laugh.
Can we get a taste? Do we get a little something?
So rude. I mean, sorry, I feel like I put you in a
Bye now. Sorry about that.
So good, I don't want to leave. So I've got to no. What is your fantasy? I can't continue. That's the only vaguely PG version of that. It's a ludicrous.
Okay, so we love that you fly on the dragon, of course, but it's not as cool, right? Filming it?
Well, no, yeah. So as soon as the first one is cool, but genuinely, it's like for each minute of dragon riding, or even 30 seconds of dragon riding, that's a week of filming.
A week.
It's mental. And then they're like, and then there's a lot of like, no, you've got to, because the thing is programmed, the buck is programmed.
And it's literally a buck, like a green buck.
And it's super, super, super high up, and then there's a woman with kind of a joystick situation. She's got, the flight path is pre-programmed.
Oh, of course it is.
And there's a lot of, now the buck in the last season, it's got 3 individual pieces that all move kind of independently of each other. So you're on it, and I get a lot of, no, but you're telling the dragon where to go. I'm like, well, when you've got 20 moves of all of these individual pieces, and I've got to remember where each of them go, so it looks like I'm the one who's doing it.
Yeah.
It can, and then every once in a while, it just, in the last season, it got a bit tired, and it just started to like go as I was getting a note, or as I was like getting off the thing, and you'd be like, whoa, I think I'm harnessed in.
Am I right in saying that we would wrap and you would be there for like another month and a half?
Literally a month
like
and a half.
Everyone else would go home from Belfast.
To wrap,
and in particular, so it was Moco unit, which is movement capture, and there was one season where everyone, all of the crew who were there, and me, who was the only person who was doing it that season, there was kind of 2 months of it, and we called it the infirmary, because as soon as everyone got sick, and then as soon as the first person who got sick got well again, the last person who got sick would make them sick again.
Right.
It was dark times. Yeah. Toilet miserable on that thing. That's why.
Well, okay, so we're going to be wrapping up here shortly, and welcome both of you to Houston. We hope that you have such a great time here. Maybe just some parting words if there's struggling actors and actresses out there, or somebody just looking to find their purpose. Any advice?
Oh my goodness! I think it's a long journey to find your voice, and it's a long journey to find out what you really want to do in this world. And it doesn't need to look like you think. It doesn't need to look like the glamour that this job can sometimes look like. But I think patience. True patience and self-belief is what hopefully we'll get, especially speaking to actors who are looking for that window of opportunity, because it will come if you believe in what you're doing. But I really think that patience and holding on is it's definitely been my journey for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long journey, it's a long haul, and I always think about that sort of image of like treading water. Like you'll stay above as long as you keep keep going. You have to keep kicking your legs, and so, because eventually, like people get tired and then they kind of go under. They're like, oh, I'm done, I'm tired. Yeah. And actually, like the longer you just keep kicking, you'll be fine.
Exactly.
And and I also think as well, there's always been this very like kind of traditional way to get into acting or to be an actor, and I took a very not very traditional way at all. Like I didn't train. I sort of just like, sometimes I think I snuck in and people haven't figured it out yet. But there are so many talented young people and you have all these resources. Like when I was coming up, we didn't have like smartphones in the way that we do now. Like people are making movies on their phones, and they're being submitted to film festivals and then getting funding. Like there's so many ways. Exactly. If you can find a group of creative people that like want to make something cool, and you can make stuff. Like I'm only just figuring that out now at 30. I'm like, in the last couple of years, I'm like, I can make stuff. I'm not waiting for someone to tell me, we want to give you this job. I'm like, I'm going to write a script and I'm going to do, that's
the most fulfilling stuff.
You can do it. And there's nobody that's going to write your story as well as you, and like make your story as well as you. So like go out there and do it.
Ladies, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys.